right, so we have it asking now, this is our alarm controller. We have it on load asking if the user is going to allow your app to send them notifications. And that's what this code did. And I took out the badge. All right, so we're asking for all three types that are allowed. And this call to the operating system registers our application with the system with these three types of notifications. So now we have to actually send a notification. So let's write a method that I will call send notification. And the notification systems uses the same kind of system calls. So we have to create a notification object from the UI local notification object method. So notification is a UI local notification object. And so we can set properties with that. We have to set up the different things we want to say in this notification. So I can say notification dot, and there's a bunch of things I can do with that. So the first thing we want to say, when do we want this to fire off? So they like to use this fire concept. We're going to fire off a notification.
You're fired.
You're fired. All right, so we give it, that is a date, so we give it an NSDate object. And just for now, we're going to use a time interval since now, so that we don't have to wait for this to come across. All right, so I'm going to say 10 seconds from now. So whenever I call this function, in 10 seconds, it will send off a notification. But we could set this as a date, which we'll do in a minute, that we get from the date picker. Okay, so we just want to make sure we can get a notification off. Then there's a method called or a property called the alert body. And this is the actual text that shows up in the alert dialog that pops up. And so we could say something like, yo, take your medicine. Something like that. And then this notification dot alert action is a partial sentence of, we'll see it on the screen, it'll say something like swipe to, and then whatever we're going to have in it. So the swipe to is already added by the operating system. So we want to do something like swipe to see the medicine reminder, something like that. So it's finishing off that sentence. And then we can have a sound that goes with it. So we're going to use a UI local notification. How come it's not default sound name? One of those nice short things, which somehow is not coming across.
About
Oh,
sound.
wait, sorry. I have to say sound name is that. Sorry. So we set the sound name to this is a default built-in sound from the system. So sorry about that. Then notification. We can set some additional information, and this will be useful later, but we can pass an array of key value pairs of a key with data. And this is only useful to the program that sent it. So I'm sending this information, it goes to the operating system. The operating system throws up the alert, the user responds to that alert, and in that response, it activates our application again, and it sends us that same data back. So we send it to them, they send it back to us. They don't do anything with this specific data. But our side can read that data and say, oh, you're looking at this particular notification. I sent out 10 of them, and this is the one that came back, so this is what I want to do with that particular notification. So we can do something like, I don't know, alarm number. And it's going to have a variable 1, something like that. So we could send an array of those if we wanted to, a bunch of different user info keys. So we're sending a hash, more or less, of data. And all that's going to do is come back to us in the same fashion. So then, now that I have the notification created, I have to actually call it. So we have this UI application, shared application, and we call this schedule local notification, schedule local notification, and we pass that object that we just created, so notification. Okay, a lot of code there, not too bad though. So basically we're setting up a particular object with some properties, and we're sending that to the operating system, and the Android OS takes care of triggering that based on this time date that I pass along with it. All right, so I'm just going to call that, after I register notifications, I'm going to just call my send notification. I'm just going to ship it out. So I only have 10 seconds, and what this is going to show up on the lock screen, which is the screen that is it's this screen. I don't know how else to explain it. It's the beginning screen when you just turn on your phone. So we have to lock our device over here after we run it, and there's a way in the hardware, it's a Command L. So we're going to do that lock as soon as we run it. So we'll run it. Now, since we already registered it, it should not pop up again asking us to register it again, which it didn't, and I need to lock it right away. So now it's in its lock screen, and after 10 seconds, diggity doggity, look at that. It showed our notification, and it says now, BMI lecture notes, that's the name of my application. This is the text, yo, take your medicine. And this is really hard to see, but it says slide to see the medicine reminder. So the slide to, can you guys see that? Really hard. Let me zoom it up. So you can see it's in gray, slide to see the medicine reminder. So I wrote see the medicine reminder, and it put in slide to. That makes sense? All right, so we slide, and it takes us to my app. Isn't that cool?
Cool.
Isn't that cool? I think that's cool. All right, so let's scale it back. All right, so we have a way of sending a notification, registering the notification. One thing I think would be useful is to ask the user right up front whether or not they're going to allow this app to send notifications. So where can I put this code that runs right when the app starts? Well, that's a good question. The code comes with, if I can find it, the appdelegate.swift file that was created when we created our project. We haven't really done much with this, but in the beginning, there's a function called did finish launching with options. So this function here is a place where we can add additional code to do something right after it launches. So I'm going to take the code from the alarm side and I'm going to put it in there. And it's really just this code here that I want. I'm not going to make it a function. So in our app delegate, put it before the true return. And now our app, right as it launches, should notify the system, ask the user if they're going to allow us to send them notifications. All right, so that's one change. Now, we can't see that work unless we reset our app, because they don't give us enough information. Oops. Isn't it, let's go to the home. In the system preferences, they don't give us enough access to change the settings for that particular app. So we have to reset it completely. So let's reset the content and settings, and that will basically reboot it. It stops our program.
So was that again under hardware?
Under, yeah, no, it's under the simulator menu, reset content and settings. So that'll reboot it. This wipes out our app. Our app is no longer there. So careful for you guys doing this. This will wipe out your data file. Your data file is stored in the app itself. So when somebody deletes your app, their data file goes with it. Okay. So one thing you could do, you could find out where that was, go to the Finder and copy the file out and copy it back in. You know, you could do that kind of stuff. But so let's run it again. And it should ask us right away. Look at that, right away. We want to send you notifications. Okay, we'll allow that. And now if I go to my alarms, even though my code in my alarm code is asking for it again, it doesn't do anything because I've already agreed to it. Does that make sense? So that's how we do it.
So you leave it in both places, or can
you don't have to. I'm just leaving the code here because this is how I'm going to lecture from, because I do it a step at a time. But you probably wouldn't call it again. Although you could think, that was weird. You could think if they didn't they didn't allow you the first time, you're going to ask them again. You know, if you want to use this feature, you got to give me notifications. So I don't know. All right, so we ship off our notification. That worked pretty good. Any questions on any of that?
There's like options where you set to not send notifications, but every so often when you reload the app, it will ask you again.
Yeah, the way I have it now, it's going to ask you every time, I think.
Oh, every
And
time.
if you don't allow it, it's going to ask you every time. We could try that. I'd have to reset it again.
So you mean it asks you every time you reset it?
Well, the resetting is just because that setting is stored in the operating system, and I can't get access to it anymore.
Oh, okay.
So-
So you declined the first time. So you
Yeah.
received it.
So I'm going to decline the first time and see if that fixes it. Okay, don't allow. So it lets me run. I can see my line chart, which unfortunately,
Yeah,
I don't have any data, and we probably should fix that. I go to my alarms. It still thinks they're not there. So let's quit. And the only way to quit is to, if we do the home button twice, there's a double click on the home button. So I hit Shift Command H twice. It brings up this switcher mode. And we can click and slide this off the page, and that kills the program. All right? And so then I can run it again and see if it doesn't. So once I disallow it, it doesn't allow it to come back. In the normal phone system, what you'd have to do is in the preferences, go allow it again. You have to go into the settings.
That's what I'm saying. So I've seen some apps that would occasionally remind you and point you to this later.
Yeah.
Ask you again.
And I don't know why it's not letting me. You'd think that would register it again. So I don't know why that's not doing that. But I can't with this interface. Oh, hey, wait. It showed up. Hey, it showed up now because I registered something. So I have notifications off. I can say turn it on. So this is all in the operating system. So I can allow it or not. And it forces them to go back this way. And they can choose which style they want, all this kind of stuff. And my app will just send the notification, and they get it however they want it. I can't control that anymore.
You can basically write code and have it for every 10 launches. If it's notification's not allowed, to ask them again or something.
You could probably do something like that, yeah. Right, so now I have it set again, so I should be able to launch my app and go to my alarm and switch and lock the thing and see it pop up. Ta-da! And so if they slide that notification, it comes up to your application. Pretty sweet, eh? All right, so now the next thing is, any questions on that? All right, the next thing is then, what we really want is to have that date be shown. So if we go to our storyboard here, we need to add some, we already did, we added our outlets so we can get at that data. We need to add a method to our date and time, or alarm time. So I'm going to right click and drag and create an action that editing did begin, and we'll call it set alarm time. How about that? So that creates a little method for me. And we have to do the same thing that we've done before. So we already have code for that. Let's go find it in our weight log controller. I think I have that. First of all, I need this, all of this code that gets the date from the date picker. This calls the date picker and gives us data back. So I need this entire chunk of code. And I need to go back to my alarm, put the code in here. All right, so that calls the picker. What doesn't it like here? Oh, that's interesting. It doesn't like set alarm time, that method name. So I have to call it something else. I'm going to call it set alarm time 1 because we're going to have 10 different alarms. I mean, this is just a quick fix for now. So set alarm time 1. Since I changed that, notice how my connection is killed. Remember that? So we have to reconnect that, but we first have to kill the connection by looking at these outlets over here and killing the medicine alarm. I don't know why I had 2 there. So I'm going to right click and drag it to this function again, and that will reset up that connection. But when we do that, notice how it automatically chooses our editing did end, which is not what we want, right? We want the editing did begin. So I'm going to kill that again, and I'm going to drag from this event over here, editing did begin, over to my function. So that sets it up correctly. All right. So that gave us part of the code. That code will get called. It'll call a date picker. And then it's going to call this method, date picker value changed. So we have to go get that code. For now, is in our wait log controller. Date picker value changed. And also that one calls then our set date time text edit. So I'm going to get both of these functions. And we can dry that up later. I'm going to copy that. Put it in my alarm controller. I really need to make use of these tabs better. And we need to fix these methods up. This is the text field, which we called up here alarm time. So both of these need to be alarm time. And I don't have 2 separate fields. So that's all that's going to do. But I want the time as well. So I'm going to say short style. All right. So that is part of it. And then the last thing we have to do is when they touch off of that, we need to close it down. And that was also in our code, this touches begin. We have to override that touches begin for that function, for that view.
You have to do it every view.
Yeah, although I was thinking we need to do something like the base activity that we did in Android and create a base activity that inherits from UI view controller, and then all of our controllers inherit from that. We should probably do something like that. All right, so that will set the date back on the text field. So let's see if that works. Build failed, nice. So I have an error. So why is it a redeclaration when I'm in a different class? It shouldn't matter, right? That's stupid. All right, well, I must have wiggled my hand and pasted it twice. That's the only problem. Jeez.
I was gonna say, I thought we did some of this the other day.
Oh, maybe we had done that already?
It was already there.
Ah. Did we really? So alarm time.
You recording back on?
Yeah, I turned it back on. So let's run it now again. Make sure that we have that working. Okay, click, pops it up. I want to go a minute into the future. Click somewhere else so our time is set. And we can type some notes in here. And that lets us type notes. Okay, good. So let's just see if we can get that information into our notification instead. Okay, so instead of sending the notification right away, let's send it when that event happens. So I'm going to do it here for now. Let's see how this works. So I'm going to call my send notification method, which went somewhere. Here it is. Let's put all these down below. These are not as important. All right, so I'm going to send the notification. I'm going to pass in the date and we can get the notes from somewhere else. That's good enough for now. And this is going to be we'll call it date is of type NSDate. And instead of doing an intervals time since now, we'll put in our date as a date object. And instead of doing, what doesn't it like about that? might not like my, oh, well, that's stupid. It's already a date, it's already an NS date, so I don't need to NS date the date, it's just the date. Holy moly. And then the alert body is gonna be what? What do we have in our alarm screen?
Alarm trigger.
The what? We want the body of that to be this notes. Wouldn't that be cool? So they have it exactly what the user wants to have typed there. So we need to, instead of putting this string, we need to get the data from that control, the notes text, and we say it equals our notes text dot text. Get the data out of that. Store it in the alert body. See the medicine reminder, and we'll play with this stuff later. Let's see if we can cause that to trigger. It's going to trigger whenever they change the date. Okay, so for now, let's do that. Run it. Alarms. Type, yo, dude, take your drugs. And the alarm time, we're going to set it for 1 minute in the future. And just doing that, set the alarm and sent the notification. So I'm going to go to the lock screen. And we wait for a minute. Curious what this is. I have an unhandled exception here. Come on, you can do it. Ta-da! There we go. So it says, yo dude, take your drugs, and it still says slide to see the medicine reminder underneath it. So we slide it, and that takes us to the alarm. Isn't that sweet?
That's cool.
Cool stuff, man. We'll figure out that bug later. So, the one more thing we really need to add to this is, at least the way I was envisioning this, is we're going to have 10 of these alarms, and we need to say we can turn some of them on or off. Okay, so in my storyboard here, I want to add some additional features that enables this entire alarm. So let's move some stuff around. And we need to have another enabler button maybe. So I'm going to copy these and paste them and put those up here. And instead of recurring, this, we'll call this enabled. Something like that. All right, and we're out of time, but we'll turn on or off these later, and then discuss a few things about how you can have multiples on the screen at a time. Since this is a more or less beginning class, I'm not going to put these into a different control. I mean, the easy way is to make 10 of these guys. Right? and let them scroll down the screen. That's not very dry, but that will get the job done for now. And then we'll have to tie in. That's why I had added that number. We could have an array of alarm objects and set each one of those differently based on these times. Something like that.
Also have to store it in the file.
And then you take that and you store it in a file. Yep. You save all these properties just to a common delimited file, or a spaceship operator delimited file, whatever. All right, so we'll play with that later. Pretty good though.